Hello and welcome to our special broadcast, World Championship. Here we come. We are talking about the Indian cricket team. It was a double delight for the men in blue this Monday for two reasons. One, because they've not only retained, but they've actually won the Border-Gavaskar Trophy. They'd retained it in the Delhi Test match once they were 2-0 up. But now, having won the series 2-1, India hold the record now of holding that Border-Gavaskar Trophy for 4 consecutive series. Apart from that, the big news today that we'll be focusing on is the fact that India have qualified for the World Test Championship finale. It has, of course, been helped by the result between New Zealand and Sri Lanka. But on top of that, India also have been outstanding this entire WTC cycle. So we're going to discuss about what are the chances of India, because once again, they'll be battling the same Australian team that they were playing a series with at the moment. Sunny Gavaskar will join us live on the program, and we'll talk to him about the performances in this series. And we're lucky to have him on India today, simply because just a few hours ago, he was the man who was standing in the middle and he presented that trophy to Indian captain Rohit Sharma, who held the Border-Gavaskar Trophy with pride. But first, let's take a look at that entire series. The Ahmedabad Test match, of course, finished in a draw. But before that, it was an exciting series, which India won the first 2 Test matches, leading 2-0. But then Australia made a comeback and made a series out of it in Indore.
Even as the 5th and final day of this last Test match was meandering towards a result that was known to everybody, came the news that India have qualified for the World Test Championship final. Now, heading into that crucial game against the Australians at the Oval in June, India would surely feel the confidence and believe that they can win the trophy this time around. But so would the Australians, especially with the way they bounced back after 2 humiliating losses in Nagpur and Delhi. Surely a perfect recipe and stage for 2 of the best teams to clash in the World Test Championship final. In Ahmedabad, this is Rahul Rawat for India Today.
Okay, you saw those visuals. Rohit Sharma lifting the Border-Gavaskar Trophy, and the man who was handing him the trophy, the man after whom the Border-Gavaskar Trophy is named, Sunny Gavaskar, joins us live to look back at the entire series between India and Australia. Sunny bhai, there was a lot of talk throughout this series. If I had to pick that one word that was used most often, that was the word pitch. How do you rate Ahmedabad's pitch, especially after we saw 3 matches which were helping the spinners, and then you get a benign pitch in Ahmedabad? How do you assess it?
See, the first 3 Test matches, there was a lot of concern about the pitches on offer. A lot of people thought that it was too much in favor of the spinners. Though I thought that, if you were a competent batsman, then you could bat on that. Rohit Sharma showed in the first Test at Nagpur getting 100. And then later on, Akshar Patel showed if you had the patience, if you had the technique, and particularly if you were a tall man, if you had the reach, you could get runs on that. Even in Indore, we had a partnership of 96, and then we had a partnership of 76 in the second innings from the Australians. So clearly, it wasn't an impossible pitch to bat on. This one I thought was possibly looking at the fact that only 22 wickets fell, that it was loaded in favor of the batters. And sometimes, that can happen. It's difficult for curators to always get the balance right. Ideally, you want a pitch which will have a match finishing on the 5th day, sometime around lunchtime or thereabouts, which will mean that there'll be a little bit of to and fro for both the sides. But like I said, it's not easy for the curators to always get the mix right.
Right. Sunny, you're right. It's not easy for the curator, and that's an ideal scenario, that you get a pitch the first 3 days, help the batsmen, then it starts helping the spinners. You would want a pitch like that, but we didn't get a pitch like that throughout this series. If I was to put you in a tough spot and ask you this question, between Indore pitch, which got a below average rating, a poor rating in fact, and the pitch that we witnessed in Ahmedabad, which do you think is better for Test cricket?
I would think the pitch in Nagpur, which if Australia had batted well in the second innings, they got 270. Remember, in the first innings, and then India replied with 400. If Australia had batted better in the second innings, then instead of India winning by an innings, the match could have gone on to the 5th. So the Nagpur pitch was perhaps the kind of pitch that you want to see in India, because there was some turn in it for the spinners. There was as we saw with with our new ball bowlers also coming to the party and bowling well, that there was something in it for the quicker bowlers as well. So maybe something like the Nagpur pitch would have been the best pitch for the series.
Okay, let me play the devil's advocate. This Ahmedabad pitch is also coming under a lot of criticism simply because you had 5 days of test cricket and you only got to see 2.5 innings. No result at all was possible. The batsmen felt very, very comfortable. But there is also a school of thought that maybe beyond the pitch, maybe if the Indian batsmen batted a bit quicker with a better strike rate in the second innings, they could have forced a result. If the Indian bowlers were more penetrative in the second innings, put some pressure on Australia, you could have forced a result. Is there merit in this argument?
Well, there's an element of truth over there, because you saw today the ball was turning and going past the outside edge. So you never know. Sometimes you need those edges to be ahead. If you're having batters playing and missing, it looks all very, very good on television, but the batter is still there at the crease, not out. So yes, I think maybe if the Indian spinners had a little more time and a lot more runs under their belt as a protection instead of just 91, if they had got maybe 150 lead, then it could have been maybe a different story. But again, these are the ifs and buts of cricket, so they're all very, very good to talk about at the end of the day. But only those out in the middle know that it's not always easy as it looks.
Okay, let's talk about those out in the middle. And one of the standout performers, in fact, the man of the match here was Virat Kohli with his 100. Would you say patience, perseverance, application, these are the standout words that come out of the knock that we witnessed from Virat Kohli?
Look, if you've played more than 100 test matches, you firstly know how to go about your speciality, which is batting. And if you've got 27 hundreds in test match cricket under your belt, you certainly know and appreciate when you see a pitch where you know that if you show patience, that it'll be only your lapse in concentration that can get you out. And so with that, the application was there. You saw that on day one when he was unbeaten on a half century. The next morning also, it took his time to settle down, to make sure that he wasn't doing anything out of the ordinary, because he just wanted to play in the V, wanted to just knock the ball around and get to the 100. The 100 was there. If Rohit Sharma hadn't had a ball that stopped on him, he could have also gone on to get 100. Cheteshwar Pujara getting out to a ball that turned. These are things that can happen. So Kohli knew exactly that this is a pitch made for him, made for his 100, and he took full advantage of that.
Okay, looking back at this entire series, now conditions were very, very tough for batsmen, barring that final test match. But if you're looking back, I'll ask you to pick the best knock that we've seen in this series so far. There are a lot of contenders. There's the 100 by Rohit Sharma you spoke about. A couple of good knocks by Usman Khwaja, Akshar Patel with that knock in Delhi, Virat Kohli's 100. Which is the knock of the series for you?
I think it's a very, very close one between Rohit Sharma's century at Nagpur and Akshar Patel's 80. Because, those two were defining innings. Those two were innings that actually took India from a precarious position to a position of safety. So clearly, I think, again, tough to choose between one or the other. But these are the two that I were absolutely top class.
Okay, Saima, stay on with us. We'll now focus on the other test match that was happening simultaneously. In fact, a more exciting test match. It did not involve the Indian team, but there was a lot at stake for the Indian cricket team because Sri Lanka and New Zealand were playing a test match. A Sri Lankan win would have opened the door for Sri Lanka to qualify for the World Test Championship final. But it wasn't to be for Sri Lanka. New Zealand kind of did India a favor, winning that exciting test match, which actually went down to the last ball. What a nail-biting test match that was between New Zealand and Sri Lanka. Sunny Gavaskar still with us. I don't know whether you had the chance while doing commentary for that India-Australia test match to keep an eye out on that Sri Lanka-New Zealand game as well. But just to put into context, the last time World Test Championship final, India played against New Zealand. New Zealand denied India the crown. This time, New Zealand has done India a favor. So all is forgiven, you'd say?
I don't think India owe New Zealand anything. India played outstanding cricket, and over the years to qualify to be the number two, whatever you might say, Whether New Zealand won, fine, it's good for New Zealand cricket. But I don't think Indian cricket owes New Zealand cricket any thank you or anything of that sort, because India has played quite outstanding cricket over the last 2 years since 2021 World Test Championship finals, and therefore they deserve to be in the finals on their own and not with anybody's help.
How do you see the World Test Championship final? It's in June 7th to 11th, but the same teams, India, Australia, how do you see them square up against each other?
I think we'll probably have a few changes in both the squads. You'll probably have Josh Hazlewood and Pat Cummins coming back into the Australian team, because the pitch at the Oval has a little carry, little bounce. And of course, English conditions mean that there will be some swing in the air as well. So yes, I think we'll have a few changes in the Australian lineup. In the Indian lineup also, you could possibly find a couple of changes. India in England have traditionally gone with four new ball bowlers and a fifth spinner. So whether they go in with 3 and 2 this time around remains to be seen. But yes, I think we could find some changes. And if you have a few changes, actually it is quite exciting, because suddenly you're looking at a different combination. Suddenly you're looking at maybe different players. And so you're very keen to see how that's going to work out for the teams.
Okay, Seva, you talk about a few changes for both teams, but one change that India will definitely not be contemplating, that is changing their openers. KL Rahul, you reckon will find it tough now to get into the 11 now that Shubman has kind of established himself with that 100? And is he the long-term opening option for India now?
I don't think it's the end of the road for KL Rahul. He's a very good player. He's just been through a rough patch. Virat Kohli was in a rough patch for 2.5 years, but Cheteshwar Pujara has struggled sometimes for runs. But we haven't been as overly concerned about that or overly critical as we have been with Rahul's form. And yes, Shubman Gill coming in, batting the way he has certainly made life a little bit difficult for Rahul to come back as an opening bat for the moment, because with the form that Gill has been in, he will be there. He'll be there for some time to come. Definitely a long time to come if he stays fit and hungry for success. But for the Oval game in particular, because it's not a question of standing up to the stumps where you don't actually need great wicket-keeping skills, then I would say look at KL Rahul as a wicket-keeper. Because don't forget, in England he got hundreds. At Lord's, difficult pitch, difficult circumstances, he got 100. He batted well in England in 2021 and also in 22. So keep that in mind when you're picking the 11 for the World Test Championship finals.
Actually, that's a very interesting idea that Sunny Gavaskar has just floated. Look at probably KL Rahul to bat in the middle order instead of someone like a KS Bharat and get him to keep the wickets in England, because his batting record there is very, very good. Sunny Gavaskar, thanks so much for joining us on this special broadcast.